Welcome to the Parody, where we tally up the victims in our favorite movies. I'm Chelsea Rose, and today we're looking at Moon Wars: The Future Soldier, released in 2016. The Future Soldier serves as a soft reboot to what Moon Wars and Time Heroes originally was. By this point, the Renegade and Frost had already released, meaning there was a direct path and one-on-one stop motion could take for the future of the franchise. Helming all of this was the same guy as always, Endpoint. In fact, if you compare it to the last film in the franchise before this, The Renegade, you can see a lot of improvements they've made in just 10 months. First of all, there's way less green screens about, making the effects not look like garbage. There's just like a better balance between everything than The Renegade, you know? If you were to view it in 2016 when this Time Heroes franchise was just being started back up again, it would have felt a little weird because you wouldn't really know what was going on if you were just watching this. That's because this actually follows off of a non-canon Time Heroes film, Moon Wars: The Zombie Prince. Without that being there, it does feel a bit weird, but thankfully we have other films like Synods and Moon Wars Aftermath. Although this one was on the first to be released, it follows as one of the last of the franchise chronologically. After all, it takes place 23 years after the Moon Wars, which means it takes place in the year 2045. It follows Zane and the other Terror Legion guys being faced with the prospect of terrorism. Oh wait, you may be asking, who's Zane? Well, this is Zane. He came to life after the previous set of Moon Wars, back in 2022, I believe. Because now it's 23 years later, and we follow what I perceive as a 22-year-old Zane. He goes back home with his family, but those same terrorists wreck his family and kill his mom. Now it's up to Zane to stop these terrorists or leave his family behind. Sure, the film does end on a cliffhanger that wouldn't get resolved for another 5.5 years, but it's still a solid 90-minute adventure. And since it is the last of the franchise before Time Heroes, it is one of the biggest and nicest setups for what that film has in store for us. Now, I was the first person to count these kills, but I didn't really have all the pristine knowledge of counting them like I do now. Maybe back then I could have gone to the future to see how many I would have recounted now. Let's see how many I do and get to the kills. The movie begins over to Truan Desert in New Mexico, 23 years after the Moon Wars. We see some people looking over a quote-unquote high-security facility in the middle of said desert. Some guy named Zadkiel says that their men are in position, and by the way he's talking, I think these guys are terrorists. Sure enough, these guards get some bad vibes from this guy just walking in the middle of the desert. He's told to back off, but he pulls out his gun and starts a massacre. He starts it off by taking out the 4 guards that were defending the gate easily. His endless amount of cronies raid this like it's Area 51 and start killing even more. Under the same kill graphic, I can count 7 more guards or imitators. 1 guard's being shot dead in the background. Another guard gets blood splattered onto the screen. 1 imitator is seen not lasting longer. This guard is shot by the imitators. This imitator can be seen under this guard with only an upper half. And finally, this security cam imitator getting blown up. So in total, we have 11 to start off the count. The imitators get to shooting out the security cameras, leaving the guards in there to question what happened. Didn't you not just see that guy shoot out the camera? Not like the imitators themselves are surviving, guys. I can count 2 more from the guards. The scientists quickly GTFO as... Wait, what's that blood splatter about? Hey, at least Zadkiel's using beams of light to shoot a shotgun. An imitator enters security with an abysmal green screen and they get into a fight. We can assume they take out the 3 security guards off screen. Seems these 2 are doing good, and let's see the other guy. Oh, they're doing good too. Seems as if 3 more guards were taken out by Zadkiel, someone I'll call the U's, and the other imitators off screen. In another room, the U's unmasked herself to see the full prize of title card. Inside the Terror Legion's hallways, we see someone in a suit. His name is Zane Pelliser, and he has 8 people outside for training. His goal with these soldiers is to turn them into some of the best soldiers the Earth has ever had. So let's cut the shit and put them through a generic, arduous training montage. He gets interrupted due to a call from his friend Buck. He's not doing this to mess with him, he just has to inform him that his scheduled leave is the next day. I don't know why he's telling him about this when he's playing solitaire like an old person. Because of that, Buck has to tell him to pack his bags and hit up some strip clubs. It's the next morning, and unfortunately, Zane doesn't have the balls to make this hostage. Instead, he boards a plane and takes a taxi to his family's home. Ready to greet him at the door is his mother, Amy. He's only planning to spend a week here since he's... Wait, what is that? Homesick? It hits night, and his mother and him are having a chat. It's revealed that his mother also used to train cadets during those titular Moon Wars. Amy, you know never to bring up Skull. You know, Zane just doesn't like the guy. Zane, that's not helping. This is just like that time you bashed someone's head into a rail just because you couldn't accept the fact that they could change. Just be glad he likes the tea. We go back to terrorism where a bunch of people are probably performing a ritual. The third higher-up who we haven't seen is a guy who speaks in green text. Didn't know they introduced Shocker this early. Well, actually, it's not Shocker. It's, let's just say someone familiar for now. We see another scene in here that looks pretty random. A naked skull in another realm, I guess? I don't know. Maybe that was just a lead into another compound, this time over in California. A guard there says that storms will roll in pretty quick, but that's not the only storm you're gonna have to worry about. Interspersed was Gil watching the first massacre. Pretty soon he's one of the only few in these compounds who actually use their brains to deduce that these guys shot at the cameras. The second guard reports a problem at the front gate, and it's those terrorists from a bit ago. Thieves in our army have come here for one thing and only that one thing, but they ain't getting shit. Because of that, she commands her tanks to completely blow up the gate. Holy shit. The death of both guards is confirmed when we see some blood on a walkie-talkie on the ground. Gil wants to know what's going on down there, but the soldier he asked for may not still be alive. They get into a fight with more soldiers, and I can count 2 more kills from this. One soldier somehow gets lasered, and another one is blown right up. One of the soldiers does run into the science room to tell them about intruders in the east corridor, so I don't think the rest of the soldiers were killed. Skull's still in his, thing going on there, so they have to get him out of there as quick as possible. Hey, the use, didn't we already know that? Weird way to drop exposition and another kill on our count. Soldier number 9 is shot by the U's. They do actually get Skull out of there, and they tell him to run out of there. And I guess the west side hallway is the safest route out of there because they just want them to be safe from the terrorists inside. Speaking of your terrorists, they're now making their way down the hallway and into the room. Oh my god. Like, it's a good movie and all, but like, these villain lines are not it, bro. DU says that by getting Skull out of that chamber, they've only delayed the inevitable. With that, DU sprays all 5 scientists with her gun. Skull makes his way back home using green screens and fields and a pause motion blur effect. Amy makes her way downstairs, finds him, and tells him that he'll live. Oh yeah, all the scars on his chest were because he jumped out a window. We didn't say the scars a minute ago, more like jump through bullshit. He describes the looks of the terrorists to Amy, saying they were dressed in black and had some weird mask on.
Hey, Skull, look, it's your son.
Yeah, Zane. He's being sarcastic and, like, whatever else as ever.
And as disrespectful to the Fiverr system, too.
Well, hey, to gain your respect, maybe I should, bash someone's head into a rail. Okay, this scene right here with Gil and Buck must have been edited really early. Like all the videos, like lower quality than the previous scene, the text is bigger than usual. Yeah, this must have been edited around the time the Renegade released. In actuality, Buck's just telling Gil about the damage the compound received. Buck says there were about 70 to 80 soldiers massacred, but we didn't see a lot of those other guys, so I can't really count them. Gil throws out the word synod.
Didn't we see them get genocide and synods?
Yeah, apparently this terrorist group managed to nab that guy. It's morning at the Pelliser family home where there's waffles and a whole bunch of breakfast being prepared. Amy says that Zane's been a hard-ass, but a lovable hard-ass, just like Skull, even though I think Skull is much more likable. The thing with Skull in particular is that he's become hardened, which means he can actually come to a logical conclusion. Meanwhile, Zane's much more probably prone to taking things more out of face value. That's just my own interpretation, correct me if I'm wrong. And plus, Skull just wants to raise his family like he wanted to, so yeah, that's already, like, a pretty big likable thing.
But he's also straight.
But Zane is too, so Zane can still get fucked.
Why does he kind of look like Eminem here?
Amy finally steps up to her son, telling him that he should respect his father more. He says he abandoned him, even though Zane also left to go serve in the... Wait, what the fuck was that car doing back there? Damn, I guess his week's ended. Although all of this is probably because Zane doesn't really understand the full situation. And besides, Zane's entire thing is apparently second chances, so why can't his father receive that? If that's the case, why didn't he apply it to clarity? At the suggestion of Amy, Skull and Zane go on a little trip together. They're at a beach that Skull and Amy used to frequent all those years ago. But also with the way Zane's acting, nothing's really gonna get solved. Zane just wants to know the actual truth, why we went MIA on them for so many years. Skull finally starts to explain, but right then and there, a grenade comes in. Should've expected that. Zadkiel, the Used, and all the others are behind this. After a small chase, Deus ends up on the property and fires a fucking rocket into her house. Fucking domestic terrorism right there. Hey guys, would you look at that? It's the legend, Skull. But sadly for Skull, he's reached a... Holy shit, an endpoint? Okay, I guess we're doing this now. Zane, for once, rightfully deduces that this woman over here is crazy. Oh yeah, that's crazy. Inside the blown-up home, it's revealed that Amy survived, and also busted like a kill graphic. Skull wants to know what all this is about, so Zadkiel has to bring in a special guest. It's Zarn, who is revealed to have survived cyanides. Zarn basically scoffs at the idea of him being contained, as he got over pretty easily by his own account. Zadkiel also explains that their sacrifices are necessary, and to get them on the FBI's most wanted list, they have to carry out with an assassination. Before they can, though, Amy gets involved. Deus is incapacitated by Skull, and they get into a firefight. A major person to get injured is Amy. Another recurring fight is Zane versus Zadkiel. Although it ends so quickly, I could just call it a scuffle. Zane tries to go get his father, but out of nowhere, Deus is all of a sudden on top of him. Then he and Deus get into a short little fight. The ending result is that Zane is injured, and then Amy just goes back inside the house. Skull gets distracted by it, so Zarn can impale him through the back. The terrorists retreat, and everyone on the field is injured. The first person revealed to have survived the battle is Zane. Gil comes in and just kind of berates him. Gil also wants to know why they had to rescue 3 people instead of also just Skull. Speaking of Skull, he's also survived the scuffle. Meanwhile, Amy had died from the gunshot wound. So I guess we can go add her to the count. Shit, bro. Sorry about that. When both of them stop grieving, Gil describes the group to them as an extremist Christian group he'd rather call terrorists. I mean, yeah, checks out, they have done some terroristic things. An advisor tells them that some important artifacts were taken out of the attacks, but one of them wasn't Skull. However, Zarn is the only thing in their possession. Zane doesn't know Zarn, so Skull has to give him the lore. And they fall on the moon, they thought they had killed him, but they didn't. You know, all the classics. Also, check out this Beta, Drexen, and Corin. They brought Zarn back down to the Earth just so they could understand extraterrestrial biology. However, since Zarn is the only thing we've actually seen them have, my guess is that the first break-in we saw at the beginning of the movie is the one that had Zarn. However, they actually do have one person from all of the attacks that they were able to correctly identify. His name is Jorge Xavier Francisco Gonzalez, and he's been an underground freedom fighter in Mexico. However, we all know him as a much more common name, Zadkiel. In this scene, Zadkiel wears the beliefs of his group on his sleeves, basically, by saying that bloodshed is necessary for their ultimate lord's will. I'm guessing that the ultimate lord is Zarn, just because that's the only thing I could guess based off process of elimination. Skull says Zarn is using Zadkiel just like Zarn had used him, but that causes Zadkiel to end the interrogation. In the next scene, Skull and Zane are just seen chilling there with Zane drinking. Might want to listen to your dad, you're gonna get a bit drunk there. Skull's noticed a few things during the interrogation that didn't add up, like how would they have the knowledge of where these top secret compounds are? If they were able to get access to that information, there was only one possible person they could get it through. Zane's friend, who we've only seen for a few minutes, Buck. Even though Buck is one of his closest friends, so it wouldn't hurt in his opinion to start an investigation. That investigation begins, but it turns out that Buck isn't home. Zane orders a full scan of the room, but everything's clear. It's pretty weird considering that today is the day Buck would be off, but I don't know, maybe he's just off doing other stuff. However, Zane has found something interesting, a laptop and some CDs. They report their findings to Skull and Gil by saying that the room was a mess and that the motherboard of the laptop was clean of any information. And because of Buck, they're back to square one. However, they can still use Zadkiel since they found some more information on him while they were gone. It boils down to his parents being recently found dead in an American river. Because of that, another interrogation is worth a shot. Because the interrogation isn't over when Skull says it's over, Zadkiel starts spouting out all this information. First of all, their group is actually known as Nuntis. Skull wants to know what the third goal of the compound break-ins was, and also why, also the parent stuff. Zadkiel wishes not to talk about his parents, but I'll just say here, I think Zarn killed them. And since we didn't see his parents, I'm not gonna add them to the count. His parents were killed just because they want to follow on the mission of killing Skull. In response, Skull just tells them that Zarn's brainwashing all of them. However, Zarn isn't the only one deceptive in Nuntis. Another person is Buck. After that, we cut right back to the main room, which leads me to believe that Skull figured out what the third thing was off screen. Apparently, another part of her plan was to have fucking anthrax.
What, is the entire meme server up in this shit too? Years ago, the idea of biological weapons came into the war room, so they tested it on Zorn and it proved ineffective. However, Zorn mutated it, creating an entire new virus. With all this shit going down, it's time to be called for duty. Skull thinks this entire thing backfired when he decided not to kill Zorn. However, in the end, Amy would have been happy considering that Skull isn't actually half bad like Zane says. With that, they're maybe on good terms. We go back to Nuntus where it's revealed by Buck that they have a bomb. They deduce that their plans won't be able to be fully found, but with Zadkiel there, they consider him dead weight now. Maybe it's time for DUs to find a new partner. In Skull's room, Marcus comes in to tell him that they found their target. It's a small California town called Blue Oak, and they're gonna poison the entire town to test it out. A ticking clock element is introduced when Marcus says that there's only 5 hours to react. Zane's notified of the threat, but also his dad isn't coming along since he's too not in condition. Skull will still be communicating with him though, and to take Zorn down, they've given him an updated battle suit. I know Zane and Gilda just looks like a regular battle suit. And much like what the virus Nuntus is trying to spread, this is the first actual test of this battle suit. With preparations out of the way, it's time to get into the actual meat of the situation. Also known as time to take care of these bastards. Outside Blue Oak, everything seems to be going well for Nuntus until they get reports that helicopters are behind them. That revelation makes Buck feel like he was in the Has-Been Hotel. He also correctly deduces that the people are Zane and his buds. They start firing at the first truck until the first truck has an RPG. Zane's copter surely avoids it, but not the one behind them. On Zane's copter, we saw 6 people, 4 soldiers, a co-pilot, and a pilot. So let's use 6 people as a standard unit of measurement for how many people are on a helicopter and say that 6 people were killed. And then the helicopter's flat fucking crashes. Inside all of the trucks, we can assume that there were 6 people in each, 3 in the front and then 3 in the back. With there being 4 cars involved, we can add 23 more. With the helicopter going out to check the wreckage, the imitators start shooting. They lower the helicopter in order for Zane to get out and start running at 60 miles per hour. Guys, Usain Bolt got nothing on this guy. He does a sick jump in the air and starts shooting at a van in order to take it down. But as we see, it does not kill all of them. Skull notices a divide in the road, so they might take it in order to make them choose. But also, one of the freed trucks left may have the virus on it. 2 soldiers decide to study the wreckage and find a live imitator. Judging by the sound effects we hear, we can assume that the helicopter was blown down, which means we can add 6 more if the 2 people are crushed by it. Another guy in what looks like a van says they've got a visual on a suspect, and it appears to be a bunch of bodies. As he's standing over the 7 imitator bodies I can count, he's told that the suspect is Buck. Through Zane's super speed, they can deduce that the truck's going to the right, so he decides to intervene. Bro's probably got some goddamn superpowers in that, so how do you do that? I'll also assume that takes out the other 3 imitators that were probably in the back of that vehicle. He finally has DUs down to the ground, but she's not letting up one bit. He holds her up to the bottom of the truck, asking for where the bomb is, but Buck moves in and he tells him not to move. Zane just wants to know where that bomb is, or else he'll snap her fucking neck. Huh, if you look at it that way, I guess he's always had a thing for violence. She says it would be a favor, so he has to do it. He snaps her neck off screen. Her body is seen when Zane's holding a gun towards Buck. Zane's also trying to probe bomb information from Buck, but he tells him to look up. The soldiers get into a battle with the imitators in the actual Blue Oak. I can also count 3 civilian kills, 2 that get blown up and 1 that gets shot. Zane rolls down to Zorn's current location. They get into a small battle. Back in the city, I think a captain comes out as gay and 2 more imitators are shot. Zane and Zorn's short battle keeps on continuing until Zorn is flung into a tree. Zorn's death is long overdue, and since it's about to happen, he says that Skull caused him not to die, not the superiors. Sucks to find that out, but you still have to kill this guy, right? Zorn's life finally comes to an end when he's crushed by a tree off screen. And also in the city, there are 6 new imitator bodies I can add, since I already counted 2 earlier. With the threat removed, they start searching the truck. When Zane gets back, Buck's all like, yo, these standouts are connected to those guys from Cincinnati, and also we're connected to the Dark Knight. Not Batman, but like, you know, that Danny Parker kid they were talking about 30 years ago. You weren't alive back then, but like, I swear it happened, alright? Having finally come to the reality of the situation, Buck pulls out the button. Zane shoots Buck, but it's too late. God damn it. Earlier we saw the captain had 6 other soldiers with him, so I'm gonna add 7 for this middle of city explosion. Oh, and along with the pilot, I think he had a co-pilot. Since he ends up within the green, I'll also add him to the count too. Finally, we can add various civilians. There's 1 brimming up this mess, 14 lighting up the streets, and 14 coming out of this corner building. Since we already counted 3 civilians earlier, I'm going to be adding 26 more civilians to round out the Blue Elk residents. Buck's plan is finally done, and since he was shot earlier, I'm going to say he was killed due to bleeding out. Zane copies back to Buck and Skull, only to tell Skull that he's a liar. He lays it all into him, basically, by telling him he's the reason all this happened. He tells him he's done, and he throws his headphones onto the ground and walks off. Damn, Skull, you truly let your son down. A bit later, the president's on the TV telling us that the virus has mostly been resolved, but he still has condolences for those who died. It's actually Gil's place, where he and his wife Kathy are having a little talk. Zane's run off, and he still has the suit, and the government wants it back. The only solution Gil can think of is hunting down Zane. The movie ends by confirming that Zane's a rogue. How many people died when a terrorist group decided to show an entire California town that they had entitled memes in their server? Let's find out and get to the numbers. This time, I counted 124 kills in Moon Wars: The Future Soldier, which consists of 117 men, 6 women, and 1 Synod, giving us a pie chart with a little bit less of crushed tree in it. We're on time in 93 minutes. We had a kill on average every 45 seconds. I'll give Amethyst Flamethrower to the 23 imitators killing that crash, simply because I think it's sick. Broken Pistol can go to the 26 Blue Elk residents, since they were kind of a bitch to count. And that's it. Moon Wars: The Future Soldier was released in 2016 and saw off a new wave of Moon Wars by release date. On Monday, I'll have Fallen Kingdom, which was the first in the franchise chronologically, and on Friday, I'll have an extra episode. But until then, I'm Chelsea Rose, and it's been the Parody. Thanks a lot for watching this parody. Due to how do I say this? Unforeseen circumstances, I had to delay this by a bit, but it should be fully ready to go by the time I'm finishing this. So it should already be fully ready to go. Also, speaking of that live stream, it will now be delayed to June 3rd instead of happening tomorrow. So therefore, the poll on which you can vote for which parody you're most interested in will also be moved to June 3rd too. I'll just tell you this, Madness Combat is the least wild of all the options on there. Thanks for watching.